Well, I'd say my favorite part of the city of Prague was just the history. I mean, being a history major and a person who appreciates it, it really, stuck out to me because Prague is over 1,000 years old. And so from Old Town, where you see the medievals, buildings and churches, to the outsides of the city where you can see the remnants of the communist occupation, where the buildings are very square and how would you expect communist buildings to look like. And so, there was just so much to see, and I was so grateful to be able to see it. Couldn't see it all, but tried to see as much as I could. I'd recommend, of course, going to the normal tourist sites like Old Town and the castle, but I would also recommend trying to see the outsides where the people live. You'd experience what the normal people who live in Prague, where they live, and also see what was left over from the 90s and the 80s when the Czech Republic finally freed itself from the communist occupation. And I would recommend getting to know the public transit system. Very useful for getting around.
The architecture within Prague was really incredible. From its founding in the 14th century all the way until present day, some buildings are kept and new buildings are built, and you have this dynamic of old buildings next to new buildings, and really just walking around the city and looking at this architecture was one of my most favorite activities to do. Just leaving the phone behind and just bringing a map and just exploring and just walking was a really great experience. And especially the food. The food there is a lot of potatoes, a lot of meat, and it was very kind of like comfort food almost.
Czech Republic has so much to offer. The city of Prague is incredible. The architecture there is what I enjoyed the most. I actually took an architecture class while I was there. It's really interesting going to a new country and seeing buildings that have been built before people even settled in the Americas. So what I took away from it was the incredible architecture.
I was in the architecture class as well, and I just really miss seeing castles everywhere and, beautiful cathedrals and exploring the city.
The city also has a lot to do for not a lot of money. A lot of the museums and towers that you can go up in to get city views are free, or if not $1 to go experience something completely different. Also, another great thing about Prague is that it's extremely affordable. You can go out, have drinks with your friends, get some pivo, some beer, and it's amazing how much you can do with so little money, and it's such a beautiful city to experience.
And another tip is to get city maps to go. They'll show you specific places to go, and you could, mark your house or the institution, so you could.
It's like a GPS, but you don't need Wi-Fi, so
great.
it can just take you around everywhere in the city.
The two classes I took were civil engineering surveying, geomatics, and reinforced concrete design. And the kind of layout of the classes was we would meet every day from about 8 to 12 for about a 3-week period. And so some people were kind of hesitant at the schedule and thought it'd be too much, but for me, I actually enjoyed it because every day you would be learning a lot, doing the homework right after class, and it stayed very kind of relevant in your mind. And I still remember the material quite well, and especially when we would go on site visits. We could take what we learned in class, like the concrete design class. We could go to a wastewater facility and we could discuss how the concrete's shaped in different ways. And there's also a building called the Dancing House, I believe. There's a kind of slender-shaped buildings, and Dr. Saracino and the students would kind of discuss how this was designed and created. And even with the surveying class, our heavy use of maps within the city, we could take how we learned to use maps and create maps and surveying, and then apply it to navigating the city and using landmarks and that sort of thing. So it was a very incredible experience, taking what you learned on site visits and then applying it in what you learned in class.
So the CE courses that we took in Prague were surveying and reinforced concrete design, and in 3 weeks we learned each subject, and there was a different dynamic where you could talk to the professor every day. They would come over, you could study with your friends because we were staying in the same dorm. So it was just, you couldn't forget any of the information if you paid attention in class and did your homework on time.
As far as the classes go, they are CE courses, so they are challenging. There's a lot of information, but like Michelle said, when you take it in 3 weeks, you really don't have time to forget that information. And when you go to class, you pay attention. If you need the professor, you can call them, they can come over, you guys can work through homework together, go grab dinner, come back. You're in this country together. They also want to experience it and have fun. So, of course, it's about finding that balance, but it's completely doable, and it's a great way to get CE electives.
Like Michelle and Gabby said, there is an interesting dynamic that's created between you and your professor. I know before I studied abroad, I didn't have a relationship with the professor as well as I do now. I know Dr. Rasdorf really well. Anytime I see him, or every time I'm in Mann Hall, I check to see if he's in his office. If he is, I'll stop by and talk to him. So you get to develop this relationship that you may not here in Raleigh.
Well, before I arrived in Prague, I traveled some in Germany with my father, going from Berlin to Hamburg, and then Frankfurt, Dresden, and then on to the Czech Republic. Spent the most time in Dresden. Very nice city, very beautiful. And then for the first few weeks, mostly stayed inside the Czech Republic, traveling within. But after surveying ended, I had more free time, and so I traveled first to Krakow, Poland, saw the history there, very beautiful city, and also nearby the death camp of World War II, which was very moving. And then another weekend I went to Rome with a friend of mine, saw the history there, very big city, very bustling, and it was also quite an experience.
So, other than Prague, I traveled a couple times within the Czech Republic. I traveled to one of their national parks where I got to do hiking for a full day and tour through some caves. I went to one of the breweries in Pilsen, and we visited Kutná Hora and Český Krumlov. So those were all within the Czech Republic. And then I went to Austria twice, once to Vienna, which was an outstanding experience, and then also to, I actually went to a world championship mountain bike race in the mountains. And all of those experiences put together, it was absolutely unbelievable because, again, I had never been to Europe. It was fun just to travel with different students. You have to train right there, or you're taking a plane or whatever you're doing. You're interacting with your own peers a lot more on those trips. You get to know everyone a lot better. It was just a wonderful way for me to get more out of my study abroad experience than staying in one place for an extended 6 weeks.